name is Bart, and I am the Shrinking Stoic, and this is my story. So for me, I've been a heavy kid my whole life. As long as I can remember, I've been the fat kid in the group of my friends. Um, I've uh, I've been chubby. My mom called me husky when I was a kid, and we joke all the time that that's the lie that she told me because she didn't want to hurt my feelings. Um, but all in all, I actually had a pretty good childhood. I can't complain. I don't think I was bullied all that much because I was heavy, but I never really felt like myself. I was conscious of my weight, maybe more so than my friends and my family and my relatives were. And I've never been easy in my own skin, but I never knew there was anything that I can do about it my entire life. So I can remember at an early age committing all of my energy and all of my efforts into academics and being the funny kid and being everything else. But I never thought I was going to be the athletic kid. I never thought I was going to be the thin kid, the fit kid. I thought I was just going to spend the rest of my life as the smart fat kid, or the funny fat kid. And for the majority of my life, that was the case, and never really felt like myself. As I got a little bit older, I sort of just felt that this was my lot in life, particularly the funny fat kid part. I began to doubt myself a lot, doubt my intelligence, doubt my real place in society. In all honesty, and that wasn't good. It wasn't until just shy of my 30th birthday that I got a wake up call. And it came in the form of a number on the scale. I'll never forget this to this day. I weighed in at 369 pounds, and that number hit me like a ton of bricks. I probably hadn't stepped on the scale in probably 2 years at that point. I knew I was getting bigger. I knew my 3 and my 4X shirts were fitting me much tighter, and I was busting at the seams. I had just bought my first few pairs of 54 and 56 size pants. I was miserable. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't feeling well. I had no energy. I was stressed. I was tired all the time. I was eating everything in sight. And something had to change. And just short of that, or just after that, excuse me, I made an appointment with my doctor to see what was going on. And my doctor was very honest with me. He said, Bart, you've got diabetes, you've got sleep apnea, you've got high blood pressure. You've probably got anxiety that's due to the high cortisol levels in your blood because of all of these things, and that's why you're feeling stressed all the time. But I wouldn't leave it at that. I wouldn't accept that was my fate. So I looked outward and I looked at everything else, and I blamed everything else. I blamed it on genetics. I blamed it on my family. I blamed it on the stress at work. I literally spent 6 months blaming everyone else, and saying that it was everyone else's fault. And it wasn't until around Memorial Day weekend of 2015 that I decided that things were going to change. And I don't know what clicked. I don't know what did it, but I decided that making an overhaul and making a complete change, it wasn't in the cards for me to do all at once. I knew the only way that I was going to do this was if I did it just through baby steps. I was going to do one little step at a time. And for me, that was just giving up regular soft drinks and switching to diet soft drinks. I look back on that now, and it's really kind of funny because I've come so far, and I can't tell you the last time I actually consumed a soft drink. But it's really kind of funny that that's the thing that spurred it all. My motivation was really to just try to get the diabetes under control. So there was that step, and then the next step was cutting back on the diet sodas, and then only taking in water. And slowly but surely, all of those little habits sort of compounded on one another. And it took me about a year and a half, but I lost my first 50 pounds. And I did it all through good habits. I get asked the question all the time about motivation. And honestly, motivation went away after about the first week. Motivation got me started, but it was my habits that kept me going. Building the good habits and not having to consciously make good decisions all the time, because it becomes such a part of who you are, because you do the little things right over and over and over and over again until they become second nature to you, and then it takes all the energy out. I will tell you, if you try to take this journey having to ask yourself why you're doing this all the time, you're not going to make it more than about 2 or 3 weeks, because you're going to be exhausted having to answer that question to yourself all the time. Then things really changed for me. Back in October of last year, luckily enough, I'm part of a wonderful company who sponsored a fitness challenge through work. I'm extremely competitive, so any sort of competition really speaks to me. I'm a former athlete. I love the spirit of competition. I love the camaraderie that it builds within a team. So that was right up my alley. And the competition was essentially an 8-week CrossFit challenge. And the winner of the challenge in our company won a cruise for 2. So that was all the incentive that I needed to start exercising, because the first 50 pounds came off with just diet. And again, it took about a year and a half, but I was content at that pace. So I went ahead and started the CrossFit challenge, and we did 8 weeks of that. And I'm happy to report during that time I lost probably, I think it's 22 pounds total in 8 weeks, and dropped, I think, a total of 7 inches around my waist in 8 weeks, which is incredible. But the most important thing that challenge did for me was it taught me how to build a life around my health. It taught me how to build a life around my nutrition, around my exercise. So everything that goes into my life from that day has been, I plan my meals on Sundays for the week, and I know what I'm eating, and I know how much of everything that I can eat. I plan my workouts for the week. I know exactly which days I'm going to go to the gym. I know exactly which days I'm going to take off for rest days. And I'm doing things with my body that a year ago I never would have thought been possible. And it's been extremely good for me. Of course, I've had setbacks like everyone else has setbacks. But I've been focused on keeping myself moving forward. My mindset has been the biggest change in me. I mean, I told you, a little over 2 years ago, I was the guy who was the victim. I was the guy who was looking for every excuse. I was the guy who was self-diagnosing with all these rare genetic diseases because I couldn't accept the fact that it was all my fault. But the moment I realized that it was all my fault, that gave me all the power in the world. That gave me all the power to know that I'm also the solution to all of my problems. So all of that began to change. Everything in my life began to change. And in those days, in those early days, I remember it was exhausting. I asked myself why I had to do it. But then once the habits started to form, everything was better. So a lot of people ask me, Bart, what's the deal with the shrinking stoic? What is it about being stoic? And I was like, well, and I tell them, philosophy is not for everybody. In a lot of ways, philosophy is not for me. But the philosophy of Stoicism has really helped me in this. In a nutshell, the Stoicism can be described as the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Stoics believe that we have power over very few things in our lives. One of the few things being our body and our personal health. But the things that we do have control over, we also believe that we will attack feverishly to improve it. So there's no better philosophy for me to live my life by than the philosophy of Stoicism, because I know I can't control the weather. I can't control, for the most part, the things that I'm going to put into my body if I'm out on the road or things like that. But what I can control is how I react to each of those situations. I can control that
if there's a fast food joint and there's a Subway, then I'm probably going to choose the Subway. I can choose to prepare my meals ahead of time and bring them to work instead of just eating it at the local fast food place. I can choose to exercise every day. I can choose to exert that sort of energy because I believe that energy that I'm exerting is going to a higher cause of improving myself, improving me as not only my health, but improving me as a person. I am undoubtedly a better person now than I was 2 years ago. I'm not stressed. I'm happy in every part of my life. I'm more successful now than I was, and I know it's sort of ludicrous to suggest that just some diet and exercise has made me more successful, but in reality, it has. It has allowed me, if nothing else, just to appreciate the success because I'm not stressed like I once was. So if I had to give any real advice to anybody who's starting this journey, it's, don't try to rely on the motivation. The motivation is fickle. Motivation will come and go. Use that motivation to get you out of bed and then start building the practices that are going to get you there. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And I can tell you that I am nowhere close to finish. I'm down 110 pounds as of today, and I've got about 50 more to go. But I'm excited to have the Weight Loss Stories community and the Weight Loss Stories Together community with me at my back because this is such an incredible group of people. So thank you, Keith, and thank you everyone else for all that you do. Again, my name's Bart, and I'm the Shrinking Stoic. Look forward to talking to you guys.